13 Questions by Man Transcending. Manhood in the Digital Age.
We're bouncing right into this, Mr. B Strut. How about we introduce the guest?
Mike Winner from Alfa Vedic and many other projects. Alfa Vedic is you'll hear about it on the show, but it's something that I recently decided to support, which is what led me to seek him out as a guest and get him on to talk, to share his story with everyone. So,
Mike is a super busy dude. We were very fortunate to be able to snag some of his time. So we were on I think we had a little over an hour to do the interview. So after we sussed out a few crossed wires in the background, we jumped into it, and it was fast paced and it was fun. He was oddly well prepared and very smooth.
Yeah, he's a professional for sure. But yeah, that's just a kind of like another testament to the connections you can make with Discord, because that's how, like I said, I found him and brought him on the show. We used that to communicate with him. And so we have a Discord, the show does, and we have a Telegram. We're also on Gab, and our website, 13questionspodcast.com. That's 13questionspodcast.com. And then the Gmail is
same address at Gmail, 13 questions numerical or 13questionspodcast@gmail.com.
And so guys, reach out to us there if you want. We have been getting some listener feedback. I got a message the other day on Discord asking about stickers. Those should be, if by the time this episode comes out, I'm hoping to have them on the website, but if not, stay tuned. So yeah, guys, support the show, share the show. Do we have the gratitude jingle lined up at all?
Yes, we do.
What? Well, then we can't forget to do that.
Gratitude, 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 oh gratitude. Gratitude, 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 oh gratitude.
Man, that just gave me butterflies. There it is. That's the jingle. I love it.
And we fade into infinity.
Awesome. Hey, well, I will go first. This is kind of an easy one for me anyway. I'm just going to say I'm grateful for Alfa Vedic, but more specifically their tea. I've been kind of doing a transition away from coffee and getting really into the tea game, and their their immortality tea line is a Gao Gulan, I think, if I'm saying that right. But the first one I tried was mint, the mint flavored, and I've never been a tea drinker. Like I was, kind of, I don't want to say skeptical, just like not really looking forward to it. But needless to say, it exceeded my expectations. So yeah. But yeah, like not only their tea, like their other products, there's a ton of them on their site. I've decided to switch over to a few for my own personal, like daily supplements and whatnot. So yeah, I'm just super glad that Mike was able to come on and to talk to us. And maybe we'll get Dr. Lando on down the road. Who knows?
It's funny. Mine is centered around Mike as well. I just finished up listening to every single episode of Podcast 2.0, which we mentioned in the episode. It's a new standard for podcasting, and part of the value block system that they're doing is based around the Lightning node system, a thing tied to a Sphinx chat. Very complicated, but at the end of the day, it's an integration with a digital coin. What do you call it? A Bitcoin, or a crypto coin. That's the word I'm looking for. So yeah, I'm really grateful that we have these tools that allow us to decentralize. Cryptocurrency at the very heart of it is just an agreement between two people that allows a transfer of value, an agreed upon value. And it allows you to take out all the middlemen and do it person to person with an open ledger. And it is it's a beautiful system, but ultimately it's just a bunch of people agreeing upon a standard in a way of doing things. And so, it is really stinking cool that you can see so many, groups of people in the planet come together, around this very simple agreement that, we want to be able to exchange fair value with each other without anybody telling us we can or we can't or how we should do it. And I don't know, I think that's a very powerful thing for the species when ultimately, these cryptography things, these crypto coins, it's just numbers and things that were typed through your fingers together into an agreement. So I don't know what kind of magic that is, but it is really stinking cool.
Yeah, that's something that I'm not too familiar with. Like, of course I'm aware of it, but it's something I like to know more about. It certainly seems like it would be make for an exciting change in the future. So yeah, man, bring it on. And one other thing to touch on in the intro before we jump in, that Mike kind of admired about the show was how it is open source. To you listeners, if you want to send a submission with you sitting down with your role model and going through the 13 questions and the bonus questions, or you can pick 13 completely different questions if you wanted to, and we'll make it an episode, just as long as the answers are honest and they're from somebody that you admire and look up to, whether it's your parents or other role models.
Exactly. And if you have any questions about how to record good, feel free to, hit us up on the Discord, open book on helping you put together the best product that you can. Love to help anybody out there that's a future podcaster or somebody that just wants to share some wisdom and, do it in a fashion that is not chalk on people's ears. So, essentially, if we can get a good, clean file, and, I think we've mentioned it before, you can do that out of just an iPhone as long as you got your room prepped properly. So there's a lot that you can do to record and share that wisdom until, at least, I don't want to say the end of time, but as long as we're recording data on the planet.
Yeah, I definitely think it's worth memorializing.
And we kind of talked, I didn't even think about this, but we talked about multi-generational homes and the wisdom that you can pass down within that household and short stepping, these lessons you would learn in your life by talking to your elders. This could be that thing, the wisdom that your grandpa, your grandma, or, somebody in your life that's super important, when they answer these questions, the wisdom that they impart to you, once that's recorded, it's there. It's there to be grabbed. It's there for great-grandchildren and great-great-grandchildren. How cool would it be if instead of looking through your family tree, you're listening to the wisdom of your great-great-great-great-great-grandpa? Like, we could be passing down treasure and wisdom to people in a way that, we're in the infancy of this and don't really understand.
Yeah, guys. So that's why it's important to support the show too. Plug for money. This is value for value, as everything is free. And we're still kind of trying to figure out our operating costs, as far as I know that we had a run-in with Libsyn and storage space the other day again.
Yep, had to do a little bit of early archiving and, Yeah, it is. It is an expensive endeavor. We appreciate those that support. It really helps when people drop onto that subscription. Kind of gives us a place to be. I'd love to get you a mixer, Bill, in the near future. That's on my wish list for you. Add a little quality to the show, start building it up, and just bring out a better product for you all. Better and yeah. We can't do it without you. You are the listener. If there was no listeners, we would be it'd be me, Bill, and another guy sitting down and talking, and there'd be nobody there for the wisdom.
That'd be into it.
Yeah. Well, listen, we're gaining massively, but it would seem like a bit of a void. And I don't know, guys. I'm glad you're there. I'm glad you're listening. I see the numbers. I see them growing. Yep. You just popped in. I got you. Thank you for listening.
Yeah, guys. So with that, enjoy the chat with Mike Winner.
All right, Mike, welcome to 13 Questions. It's really nice to have you here. Let's just jump on in, man. You all ready?
Oh yeah, I am ready as can be. Hey, I'm honored and humbled to be here, guys.
Well, thank you for wanting to come on. So, what was the best advice ever given to you, and would you modify it at all today?
Yeah, that's a tough one because I've been lucky enough to have been given some pretty damn good advice in my life. But one of the things that's always resonated with me since I was a teenager was I had a mentor of sorts who was a good friend of mine who is his father, who was a very successful entrepreneur, and I was working for him on a summer job, and I was actually like his driver. It's like his assistant. And I was on a busy freeway in Orange County, and where I was working and grew up in Southern California on one of those crazy freeways, and a guy cut me off. And I got, heated about it. I was like, God, what's wrong with people? Why are they so selfish? And why can't they just be a little more, just be a little more aware of what they're doing? And he's like, why do you care? And I said, what do you mean? I'm like, can't you see that behavior? Like, what's wrong with this? He's like, why? How does that really affect you? And I'm like, well, he cut me off. He's like, but how does it? You're now making that affect you more in your life by expanding on that. And now he's really affecting you, but let it go. And I think that was like one of the best pieces of advice I ever got was like, don't let other people affect you. Really, it's you creating that in the end, and just let it go and kind of like be in the Zen zone, I guess, but just like let things go. And, it's taken me my whole life to still really put that into practice, but that has always kind of stuck with me since I was like 17.
Yeah, it's cool. Don't let other people live inside you.
Yeah, that's a pretty stoic attitude. I like it because, it's really, putting the power back in your own hands instead of letting somebody else's, like you were saying, like somebody else is choosing how you feel. Like you get to choose how you feel. Like don't let what they're doing affect, how you're doing. Is that about right?
Yeah, I'm trying to think how I'd modify it at all today if I would even need to. But you mentioned stoicism, and I think of Marcus Aurelius and his meditations, and like that is what he talks about a lot, right? Which is like just and we'll talk about this in some future questions, but it's really more about your own self mastery than others. So focus on being the best you can be. And by doing that, you'll be able to navigate the world a lot easier and not let those other people affect you so much.
Yeah, it's kind of the focus on your garden. Don't try to tidy up the world.
Exactly. And easier said than done, right? Especially nowadays.
Oh man, if you tried to pick all the weeds.
Well, weeds are good too.
That's true.
So coming from like a permaculture background, like I've recently really kind of discovered this in the last few years, is like weeds are a symptom of your terrain, of your land or your garden, and they are telling you something. we like to just go rip them all out without thinking about it. But actually, weeds are it's just as important as your compost in some respects, because they are the symptomology of what's going on in your soil, whether it's too compacted, whether it's too loose.
Yeah, they're
And
kind of the other side of the
nature has a
balance,
purpose.
like a visual of what's off balance or in different balance.
Exactly.
It's pretty
Yeah,
cool. I
so-
never thought about it that way.
Yeah.
What is the most important lesson that you learned from your parents?
Oh man. I think the most important lesson, this is kind of a classic one, but my dad really harped on this a lot, which is live in the present, which is, one you probably hear a lot on these questions. But I think one that's even more important to that, and something that is really kind of something I've worked on in my whole life, and I feel like I'm finally in the last maybe 5-6 years mastering it, is be as honest as you can with yourself. And then you'll be honest with everyone else around you. But honesty, so important, which really comes down to not taking the easy path. Sometimes being honest is very difficult, right? But honesty is probably been the number one thing that I took, especially from my father. And when I was younger, I took a lot of the easier route. It's easier to tell a little white lie to not hurt someone's feeling or to get out of something. But I think that was probably one of the most important lessons, is being as honest as you can.
Yeah, it's something that's certainly not harped on or taught enough. I know I was taught truthfulness and things like that, but just that honestness in everything, it's a different way of being, because, truthfulness is, well, when you're confronted with it, it's basically come forward, make sure you're not on the wrong side of the coin. But, that's kind of it's a whole system approach.
Yes. Yeah. And there's some discussion around that, right? Because sometimes you can hurt some feelings and cause some issues by being blatantly honest. You don't want to be a dick about it. You don't just go around just being blatantly honest to people. You should have compassion and understanding. But when it comes to those big kind of forks in the road in your life, I think that's where it matters most.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we all are given those forks every day, really. That's part of the adventure of why we're here. And that's, when those important times in your life where you decide to take the honest route, that's really important, because I think that's where morality and true growth comes from. And that was something my dad was really good at, constantly reiterating to us, because like any kid, I did my fair share of lying to get out of trouble. And I learned the hard way a lot. And now I feel like I'm kind of really mastering that in a way that's really paying massive dividends in my life as far as successes go, and also helping me be a better role model for my kids.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Yeah, your parents did a lot of good teaching for you, huh?
I was lucky, man. I had great parents. My parents. So I live in a small town up here on the border of Northern California and Oregon, on a beautiful Smith River, on a pretty remote place. And my parents, like I said, I grew up in Orange County, California, which is like SoCal, like 30 million people down there. And they just sold their house finally and bought a beautiful 2-acre spread 5 minutes from us here. So now I get my parents 24/7. But and some people would be like, no. But I've just been fortunate enough to have
really
amazing parents. They're still married, obviously, in love. They have their issues, of course, as any couple that's been married for 50 years. God, yeah, I think they're going on 45, 50 years. But I'm just fortunate. I had great parents, and I still get to see them every day almost. And my kids now get to see their grandparents.
That is the coolest part about it there. You get to keep that whole encompassed family. A lot of wisdom that can get passed down that you haven't yet to learn. They can take a shortcut.
Yes. Yeah, no, it's important, right? Like, it takes a tribe, as they say. That extended family idea. I think modernity has really taken that out of the equation a lot for a lot of families. And actually going back to the first question, the gentleman who gave me that great advice, what I loved about them is they had at one point, I think 5 generations living in their home, which is incredible. So that was always I was like my second home. I spent a lot of nights there, hung out there. And that was always really cool to see because you saw from the great grandma all the way down, or the great grandma all the way down to like the great grandkids, and the sharing of the multi-generational
it's great
wisdom and all that. I think it's so important.
Like every 10 years I look back and compare myself to who I used to be. And if I, take that out to 60, 70, 80, 90 years, what extra wisdom, what are the things that I'm not going to know? And that's just amazing to be able to, because I think there's things that I tell younger people because I feel I wish I'd known it or had that tool in my box, or a book suggestion because it would have been beneficial to me. So if I think it could help someone else, I try to throw it to them. And, if you're living with so many generations of that, that's like, I don't know. It's a beautiful thing to think about.
Yeah, it's definitely priceless, man. You can't put a price on that at all.
What book has been most influential on your life and why?
Man, this is a tough one because I love to read and I love the classics, but I want to say some like great work of literature, but really what's funny, which is kind of really like affected me a lot was in terms of what I do with decentralized cryptocurrency stuff and on the awakening stuff with the podcast was, we've talked about this book a lot of late, which is The Creature from Jekyll Island. Are you familiar with that?
Yes.
With Griffin. Yeah. And that was like my great awakening book when I was, I read that when I was a sophomore in college. My dad gave me that book, actually, believe it or not. And it kind of blew my mind on so many levels. It just shattered my whole, and I kind of, because of the nature of who my father was and how he was always harping against the Fed and centralized, government. And he was kind of he's very much a libertarian, or really more, he calls himself a constitutionalist. He's a red-blooded American from Montana, grew up in Montana, and just is very much into a lot of the traditional, I guess, classic Americana ideas of freedom, right, and liberty. So anyways, he shared me this book and it really blew my mind because it's a great narrative. It's like, he does a great job of telling the story of how these banksters and these elitists colluded together on the island, the Jekyll Island, to create what is now the monetary system that controls the world. And it's not only a wonderful tale, but it really just lays out in a very kind of easy to understand way how modern financial system works. And so it was just like, whoa, we are living in a reality that is not what I thought. And then that just led to all the other rabbit holes of
That's
awakening.
awesome.
So for me, that book was just like the one.
Yeah, no, I love it when you get that one peek behind the curtain and you're like, oh, well, if I was told this and this is really how it is, then anything is on the table.
Yes.
What daily... go on, Bill.
I was just going to say, I've heard about that book. I haven't read it yet, but where was I going with? Oh yeah, I just saw a meme today, and it was a Monopoly meme, and it was talking about how the bank never runs out of money, and if you do run out of money, you can just use slips of paper,
quantitative easing, baby, yeah.
Instead. So, yeah, I think I get there.
Nice. Yep. Showing the
I have
book.
it here. I have it in my like main bookcase behind me for I still referenced it all the time. It's just like an amazing.
It's bigger than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, it's an amazing. It doesn't read like a textbook out of a economics class or something.
Right.
It's he did a fantastic job, and G. Edward Griffin we're talking about, and Bear Lando, who is my partner on our podcast and with Alfa Vedic, was fortunate enough to have him come out in the 90s to a number of like these freedom kind of festival kind of workshops they did before the internet. So you got to meet him. The dude's legit. He's the real deal. And so anyways, G. Edward Griffin's The Creature from Jekyll Island. I recommend that read to everybody.
Yeah, on my long list of books. What daily habits or rituals do you have?
It's a good one. I talk about this a lot because I actually think it's important to have um, ritual. I think we're severely lacking that.
Mhm.
At least healthy ritual, healthy habits in our lives these days, in our busy, modern lives of just go 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 and digital just over stimulus of information. I think it's important to kind of have a more natural kind of rhythm in the morning. So for me, mornings are really important. I am kind of a night owl, but my morning ritual is the same every day, unless I'm like out, on a vacation somewhere or something. But typically it involves a morning meditation. And then I don't do breakfast. So I don't quote unquote break my fast with food. I do a morning tonic where I drink. I take water out of our river, which we collect here and filter. We don't really need to filter it. We live on one of the cleanest rivers in the country, which is nice. But and then like a fresh picked lemon and some of our Alfa Vedic 0 point liquids, which is just a fulvic humic vitamin base, kind of like a She Legit, if you're familiar with that, and then a little bit of maple syrup. And I do that every morning. And then I do some martial kind of qigong meditation stuff after that, some yoga. And then I start my day. And every day it's like an hour long kind of process that I do almost exactly the same every day. And it gets me set for the day. It gets my intention set, puts me in the right headspace. And it really works out for me. So that is my daily ritual. And people in my family know, let me do my ritual and then I'll be good. It's kind of replaced the morning coffee that a lot of people have. So anyways, yep, I do that every day.
That sounds awesome. I think about ritual a lot. It's something that, okay, if I could do that, I would be happy. That's something I'm really horrible at. I'm in front of the computer way too much. But yeah, it's just really refreshing to have somebody just come on and jump right to like, yes, this is something important that people should be doing. But I didn't know that you could make drinks with that, the AV, was it the #1 full spectrum? Is that what you use?
Yeah. So, I change it up.
Okay.
So like I go with my intuition. So sometimes I'll do like lately a lot I've been doing, cause I'm doing kind of like a winter cleanse. So I've been doing our zeolite, because I've been doing like a heavier detox protocol, but the full spectrum. So for those listening who don't have no idea what we're talking about, maybe you guys will do a little intro of me before that. But we have a company called Alfa Vedic. We sell really cutting edge health and wellness products based on Dr. Baird Lando's 40 years experience as a bioterrain specialist. And one of our top selling products is our 0 point liquids, which are literally like highly concentrated transitional elements, which are like if you've orbitally rearranged monotonic elements, which have become really trendy and popular in the last couple of years. What's funny is we were talking about this 15 years ago. People thought we were crazy, thought we were like literally woo-woo, right? But the idea is that you actually have these elements that are in a waveform that are vibrating at a higher frequency that are almost more ceramic than metallic. So all that means practically is that they are better initiated into your cellular matrix when you ingest them, where we know like traditional vitamins, you tend to pass like 75-80% of those through your system before they even, actually the core constituents can get into where they need to go. So this is just better for cellular kind of saturation. It's better. And they're just more energized. So anyways, yeah, I do like a tablespoon of the full spectrum or something else, the gold platinum I love, with fresh squeezed organic lemon. So that's like a tonic. It's a very alkaline, and then a little bit of maple syrup for a little energy kick. And then I don't eat breakfast. I like never eat breakfast. I will sometimes do our thermogenic, which means like a caffeinated tea or a coffee with chaga mushroom, reishi maybe, cinnamon, and then I always blend that with coconut oil. And then that is what we call thermogenic. So that essentially gives me energy for the whole morning and allows for my fast to kind of continue. until maybe I have a smoothie in the day. And then I'm kind of what we call an OMD. So a 1 meal a day guy. So I really only eat 1 meal a day, and that's dinner. So I guess you could call that a whole thing, a daily ritual.
Yeah. It sounds like it.
Yeah. And so I just find I have a lot of energy because of that. So I'm kind of micro fasting every day in that sense.
Yeah, that's something I'm super excited to start exploring. It was the Alfa Vedic products. I was a member of the Melaleuca Wellness Company for like almost 8 years, and that's pretty much just just a buying program or whatever. But Alfa Vedic is something that I really, really resonated with, not only because of the health products that you guys do. You have amazing tea also, but then also the personal sovereignty aspect of it. But yeah, and then like your whole cover is just tea company. Then you got all these other cool things on the side. It's pretty neat. Yeah.
Bill, don't give us away, bro.
If I were to ask your best friend, what is the one thing they would say you need to work on the most, and why?
Oh man, it's a good one. It's a good one. As you could tell, I'm kind of energetic. I would say like my best buds, and I've literally bumped heads with them about this, is my tenacious Virgo energy. And like if I get countered at a certain place where I'm like in the zone, I'll snap. Like, and I need to work on this. But I like, for instance, I've been a DJ for going on 20 years in the underground kind of house music scene, but played a lot of clubs and stuff. And like there's times when I'm like DJing with my buddy and he's like getting on me about playing a track, and I just like turn around and go, snap and be like, get off my back. Like, let me just do my thing. And like kind of snarky and kind of a dick. And I look back and go, oh, I shouldn't have been like that, and he called me out on it. And I'm like, yeah, I need to work on that. I need to work on like having, I guess, more patience when someone calls me out on something I think is like the right way to do things. And I think that's just kind of like my fiery Virgo-ness. So it's good that I'm aware of that. Like my wife's called me out on that a bunch too. So I would say, yeah, that would be my number one thing.
What are you most curious about?
Man, everything, dude. That's what drives. I think if you're not curious about everything, then you're not here for the right reason. But so I'm always injecting curiosity in everything I do, especially with my kids. Like everywhere we go, we're curious about stuff, But I would say, like, if I had to pinpoint it on one thing, I would say universal truth. So, what is the universal truth behind reality? Like, and I know that's pretty broad, and that's like entire philosophy and sciences and stuff are based around, but like, what are that? What is the truth? Like, this gets into like, the esoteric and spirituality, but like, what happens after we die? Like, are we recycled back in? Or do we go to another place where we do a download of our life and then we decide where we want to go next? Like, what are those essential universal truths of what our reality is and what consciousness is? And then how does that apply to where we are right now on this planet? And that's kind of what our podcast is all about. That's really what my life's all about. So yeah, understanding that greater universal truth of what kind of drives reality.
Very cool. So beyond the big question, I want to see the gears. I want to know who built them.
Exactly. Like, what is this divine source or God or however you look at it? I mean, I'm definitely beyond like the reductionist materialism, the Descartesian kind of, Cartesian model, obviously, and consider myself, I guess, to be a spiritual explorer. But yeah, like I still have all those questions, like what the hell is running the show, man? And I guess that's like the essential question behind most great philosophers. But I think that's why we're all here.
Yeah, truth seekers for sure. I mean, that's why I wanted to have you on the show, is because I could see all of those qualities in AlphaCast. So, yeah. Absolutely, man.
What was the most embarrassing or humbling experience of your life?
I've had a lot. I've had the, man, this is a tough one. Um, most embarrassing or humbling. So I've had really embarrassing, but I'm trying to think what humbling. Like I've had stuff where, I've done the classic like poo in my pants as a kid in soccer practice, kind of stuff.
I fell in the mud.
Had the coming down to the end, the wire on a high school basketball game where there was a technical and someone had to shoot the free throw to win the game, and everyone said winner. My last name's Winner. He's the best. I was the best free throw shooter, and it was against the best team, Modern Day, which was like our rival, and I airballed it, and in front of the whole like school and everything. That was pretty bad. But in terms of humbling, the most humbling experience was probably when my first child was born, and just being there to witness. And this is going to play into another answer down the line, I think, but being able to witness like the power of my wife and her having that baby and me just being there. I was just so humbled by that experience.
Dude, I don't have kids, but I can imagine that's something that is one of those things where, you're just a little apprehensive about,
I mean, it's like beyond anything you can explain. It's one of those things where until you experience it, it's just metaphysical, right? It's like philosophical, but it's one of those things until you actually go through the process. Like I think it's the most humbling thing anyone can go through on this planet is like being involved with having a child. So it's, I've had two, I've gone through that twice, and it's unbelievable. Best, most defining experience you can have.
Yeah, you're looking for truths in nature. You cut to some just pretty raw realities that, kind of get you to some sort of core reality, even if it is just an experience.
Yeah.
What is your greatest fear, and how have you overcome it if you have?
Well, I would say on the like top level, like my greatest fear is sharks. I used to have a lot of nightmares of sharks, coming out from the depths while I'm surfing or something and attacking me. But I would say actually my greatest fear, and something we've talked about a bit about on the podcast, is me losing my kids, like me losing my connection with my children, whether that be in the afterlife or one of them, is tragically, their life is ended before mine, or that I just don't get to be with them after this experience. Because I'm really close I have two sons, and I'm really, really close with them. And so how have I overcome that? For me, it's one, I have a lot of discussions with them about this stuff, and they are the ones that help me overcome it, because they're the ones that say, "Don't worry, Dad, like we've always been together and we always will be." And I it gets pretty spiritual, but it's kind of like, yeah, I feel like we have, and there's no fear there, because I've seen this on other people telling me talks and stories about this, of people who have lost kids and how they visit them in their dreams and how they've had experiences where they feel like they're still there. And so I'm kind of getting over it, where I feel like this is just a temporary experience in the simulation, and that if you're truly connected, we're all connected, right? I think we're all consciousness experiencing itself. We're all the God mind, part of the God mind experiencing itself. So, I believe, have an affinity to certain aspects of that mind where we repeat the experiences together. And I believe that my kids and myself have done this before, and we will do it again. And maybe people might say that's delusional to help protect myself from that fear. But for me, it works. So I've kind of gotten over that fear. And I just embrace every moment I have with them anyways. But I just kind of know, like, we're in this for the long haul, and time doesn't even matter.
I could not agree anymore. I love that point of view.
But sharks, did you overcome the sharks?
No. No, I don't think I ever will. Like, I don't surf too much. One, the water's way too cold here. Like right now, I think the ocean's around 45 degrees. It maybe gets up to 55 in the summer. And then even when I grew up in Orange County, I was like a body surfer and a boogie boarder, and I was a street skater. Like we were talking before the show, I love street skateboarding. But I was never one to really get in the water too much because of my fear of sharks. I just feel like you're in their domain, and they're like, they can jack you whenever they want. And why risk that? I don't know. I just have an intrepid fear of sharks. And I don't think I'll ever get over it, to be honest.
Underwater levels in video games are the most stressful for me. In real life, it's like, okay, what's going on? Got a little muddy in here. Ugh.
Yeah, especially the ocean up here. It's like, I joke around, like, you surf out there, you have a freaking orca come out and chop your board, dude. It's like such a wild ocean up here, and it's like total great white shark habitat. So I mean, I totally have respect for hardcore surfers up here that like would risk their lives. I mean, I think you have a greater chance of getting struck by lightning than getting attacked by a shark. But my neighbor,
unless you never go in the ocean, and then there's a 0% chance.
Well, there you go. But I was going to say, my neighbor across the way has got like the ultimate man cave. It's like a total museum. He's like in his 80s, old school hippie, but he's got all these mako shark jaws and stuff he's found because he's an old school surfer. And he's had a lot of run-ins too. It scares the hell out of me. But have you ever touched a shark? Like those are razor sharp teeth.
Yeah, like, I've had many a cut on my chest. I used to love wearing them as necklace.
There you go. Scary sharp, bro. Like, no thank you.
Exactly.
Death machines.
Spielberg was right. What quality do you most admire in a man, and why?
In a man. Well, I've been talking about this a lot lately. The archetype of like the chivalrous knight. So chivalry. The idea of chivalry, the idea of kind of living in this moral state of doing what's right, but not like we have a sensibility right now with a lot of people and a lot of men where they'll like think they're doing what's right. They're virtue signaling their righteousness, but it's not like a core moral correctness where the idea of chivalry is you do what's right because it's universally like locked into universal law of what is morally right to do, right? And I think that's why men are here. We are here to maintain the moral code of society. That's why traditionally men have taken the role of leadership and going out and doing the hard work to maintain society, where women are the divine creators. Women are the ones that are birthing and bringing the love and the heartfulness, and men are supposed to embrace that as well, of course. But men, we have the task of maintaining the moral code and the fiber of society and doing everything we can according to that code of chivalry to protect the divine creators. And so we are, yeah. So that's pretty darn important.
Well said. Yeah.
Who were and or are your role models, and why?
Role models. Well, as a kid, I had a role model that I think a lot of my friends had, but I don't know. I'm not embarrassed of it. So that role model would be the one and only Air Jordan, His Highness Michael Jordan, because one, we share the name. Two, growing up in the 80s and 90s, I loved basketball. I loved, my last name's Winner, right? So I got a lot of beef about that, called loser a lot. But what I loved about that dude is like, he put everything on the line, and that dude was like, he broke all the records and just won. He was just the guy, and he was the greatest. I still think he's the greatest NBA basketball player ever. And I was actually a huge sports nut. I'm not so much anymore. I've kind of totally given up on professional sports because of just how corporatized it is. But as a kid, like I looked up to Michael Jordan because he just figured out a way to be the best always. And I think that's something we've lost a little bit, right? We celebrate just marginalism now. It's like almost like seen as unethical to be the greatest now, like in a weird way. We've lost that American kind of aesthetic, right? So Michael Jordan, I know he's not perfect. I know like he did some messed up stuff, and I think he had some gambling issues. And I know he was a womanizer too. I found out later, because when I went to UC Santa Barbara, he did his summer camp there, and he was infamous for that. So he stopped being my role model, of course. I was like a childhood role model. But I had the Michael Jordan posters up in my room, and I don't know, like for when I was younger, that was a role model for me. For now that I'm older, like I don't know. I think going back to the chivalry archetypes, a role model. Like I don't know if there's a human being that's really a role model for me anymore, because I don't really look towards others, towards my sovereignty. But as a kid, Michael Jordan, man.
Yeah, he's come up before. I mean, it's not an uncommon answer.
No.
Oh, really?
The interviews that I've done.
Oh,
before,
yeah. And, I love him because he's a testament of balance, right? If you want to be the best and singularly focused on that, then there are other things that are affected. There are other prices to pay. There's a certain mentality of a person who can be that focused and driven. And, it comes along with a lot of other baggage. So, it's kind of a lesson for, allow your kids to have these role models, but let them see the person in totality, so you don't just think, this person is the greatest and the best. No. To do that, you got to let other things suffer.
Yeah. Yeah. And obviously, like he sacrificed a lot. I mean, Kobe Bryant is kind of this extension of him. Kobe was kind of like, when I was in college, became my new Michael Jordan. Kobe is like 12 hours younger than I am. And so he was literally born 12 hours after I was. So we have like my life is weirdly synced with his in some weird ways.
Yeah,
like
you've got the same charts. They're tracking together.
Yeah. So like when he had the whole drama of the with the girl in Utah or whatever, we're talking about like with the rape charges or whatever. And I don't know what the whole truth of that is. I think he messed up, but I think she was also kind of crazy. I was going through some hard times with something similar, not anything like that, but I had hit a downside. And then when like he won his first NBA championship, I had a major breakthrough in my career as an independent TV producer. I actually did a whole like Facebook post about this years ago, like my journey with Kobe Bryant. So thank God I didn't die in a
Listen,
tragic accident.
you could start hacking reality. You can start doing trends and searches on this. Maybe there's something that's going to still pop up in the internet and the thing that's going to somehow weirdly sync to you. Maybe their children will be lock and step with your kids or something strange.
Yeah. And he also married the girl he married. I kind of knew, I knew friends because I grew up in Orange County where she was from. And I like kind of knew friends that knew her. Yeah, man, what a tragedy, huh? Losing Kobe last year. I mean, that was a hard one. That was a difficult one.
And it, essentially after the NTSB came out, it turned out to be essentially, pilot error. Shouldn't have been flying with the instrumentation into weather that you couldn't avoid. So yeah, very, very sad situation overall.
They just had that, right? Didn't they just have that?
Yeah, they just released
report a couple days ago or something. Yeah.
Yep. I think in a nutshell, it turned out the pilot was just pressured to do it. There's a lot of
symbology with that and stuff too, and it is interesting how these archetypes of like these heroes of ours.
Yeah.
The fall that we see a lot, I think that's important for kids to see too. We idealize stuff a lot, and in this dense reality, nothing is perfect. Like no one's perfect. And, I don't know who what role models do kids have these days? YouTubers? I don't know.
No, it is. Look at what kids are dressing up for as Christmas. All my, coworkers or kids are picking YouTubers or kids that review toys.
Yeah.
So yeah, which is kind of interesting too, because, it's not the Michael Jordan. It's, so many, a larger plethora in span of diverse people. So it's certainly going to be interesting in how that pans out.
Yeah. Well, I hope if I do my job right, and this is no knock on my dad, he's great. But I hope if my son's ever interviewed for this, he'd say me as his role model, because that's really what I try to do every day, is just like be the best dad I can, and like walk that fine line between friend and father, which can be challenging too. But and just live a life that they can see. Like, I don't lecture much. We have conversations, and actually like pretty deep philosophical conversations for a 7-year-old and a 9-year-old. But I try to be representative of all the stuff we're talking about just through my daily behavior and activities. And so maybe this is a good thing, right? Maybe like this is allowing for parents to step in to be better role models, because of the decentralization of media that we're seeing, and everything happening right now with what's going on with COVID and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So
kids aren't going to school; they're staying home. There's a lot more people that are choosing not to and finding, hey, I can do a better job.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's kind of goes along with the mission the mission statement of 13 Questions, is to kind of honor, memorialize and honor the ones that came before us, because they made us who we are today, and also to cement that information in the digital internet world, so that posterity can come back and listen to it. So yeah, maybe having that space open up to where parents can step in and be more of a role model is I never thought about it like that before. That's neat.
What institution of society or structural aspect of modern life would you change given the chance?
All of them. Full spectrum change. Probably going back to like the creature of Jekyll Island. I think the financial system needs to be massively disrupted. I think everything's centralized. Like every aspect of the kind of control hierarchy of the corporate sphere that is really kind of been like crystallized into this central force that we're seeing right now. It's really playing out. That's all stratified by the financial system. So to be able to completely take that out and rebuild it into a decentralized system using public ledgers and cryptocurrency and public blockchain and all that, I think, and that's what I'm doing. So like, that's one of the core projects I'm involved with, the stuff we're doing. So and I see that happening. Actually, I see we're in the death throes right now of the fiat centralized kind of corporatized.
Isn't it great?
System.
Just the thought that you and I could all just hand an agreed upon exchange equally between us and any other person, without somebody being in the middle and deciding who can and can't do what. That's so cool.
Extremely empowering. Yeah.
Yep. Big chains are going to be lifted.
Even before, like in the days of like silver and gold standard, you still had you had money changers. Like it wasn't as easy to walk around with a bag of silver, or like you had to go to the guy who would clip your golds that would weigh it, So you still had like an intermediary, even on like the most like sound money, where now with something like Bitcoin, you have true peer-to-peer exchange that has no fiduciary, intermediary, or any middleman, and that is so revolutionary. So we are in an extremely exciting time.
Isn't it great? Now. We're told that this system can't work because what's a Bitcoin based on? It's like, okay, so what's a dollar based on? It's a hallucination. We agreed upon the value. There's no longer anything really backing it. So the gold standard's gone. This is better. It's trackable. That's a problem.
Yeah, I know. I love how they say it's Bitcoin's like criminals, used by criminals and drug dealers and stuff, where it's tracked. Like you could go on the blockchain and see the transactions, where cash, which is fiat currency, which isn't even real money. It's just it's a corporate controlled currency, a debt instrument. That is like, they say something, I don't know how many dollar bills have like residue of cocaine on it, that like kids are like playing with, So like, what's really the dirty money here, guys? I mean, it's pretty obvious like how rotten the system is that we've been in for so long.
Freedom is on the way.
It feels like it.
What is the most courageous thing you have ever done in your life or have seen?
That's a tough one. I hate to say I've done anything courageous. It seems kind of pretentious. But I've definitely, so here's my answer. So one, obviously, a lot of like the whistleblowers in the truth world, because I kind of work within that. I'm blown away by the courage every day I see with some of these people. And even like the more mainstream ones, like WikiLeaks and everything that, why am I blanking on his name right now? You know what I'm talking about, that he's gone through.
Julian Assange.
James O'Keefe.
Well, James O'Keefe, but Julian Assange.
Oh, okay.
James O'Keefe, talk about some courage, man. Like going up against the deep state.
I've got a signed hat by him.
Project
donated.
Veritas, do you really?
Yeah.
I love that.
Big
dude.
fan of that guy.
I mean, the recent one he did this week, right? Could be the biggest one with
Haven't checked it out yet. I'll have to do that.
with Stucker Turd. But I would say the most courageous thing, and this is going to go back to another answer I had, but it is like watching my wife give birth. She gave birth to both our sons totally natural. We did like a meditation course before on the first one. We did a mindfulness meditation class, but she did it fully natural. So that was really important to her, so that she could have the pure birthing experience. And we know actually there's a lot of studies that show it's important, like the way you connect with the child and the hormones and everything, to have your child will actually fare a lot better with the natural birth. But to be in that room with her and watching her do that, and the courage it took, and how much of a stud and champion she was to do that, that was the most courageous thing I've ever seen in my entire life. And I still get chills from it. Like, so bar none, for sure.
Yeah, it makes you kind of think, like, if I was in that position, it's kind of like a wave coming towards you. It's coming. It is coming. You've only got a couple of choices, and most people, they're walking into that wave.
Yeah.
What does it mean to be a man in today's world?
What does it mean? I mean, we know that the toxic masculinity is everywhere. So, what's it mean to be a man in this world? Well, I would say to be a man in this world, once again, kind of harks back to this idea of chivalry, right? It means it's time more than ever for men to be men. And what I mean is to figure out what your moral code is and stand by it, and be a champion for morality and for truth. We need that more than ever. And right now we're seeing a lot of women doing that, to be honest. So we need to see more men standing in their role of power. And for me, like that, I feel like for 2021, we're calling it the great year of the unmasking. We're going to see a lot of these quote unquote role models, as we were talking about earlier, really aren't role models, and they aren't real men. But we're going to see that I think some men are going to step up to the plate this year and are going to fill that role. And actually it's happening. So yeah, I think to be a man in today's world means you're going to have to take some risks. You're going to have to do some sacrifice. You're going to have to put your neck out on the line a little bit, and you're going to have to live in your truth. And it's going to be the true test. Like, we're all in the greatest time and the scariest time for a reason right now. And so we're all being put to the tests. And I think that's what it means to be a man right now. So it's super exciting, but also challenging and just breathtaking in terms of what we can do.
Well said, Mike. Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, it's been great, man. How was it? I'm always interested just to kind of know, what it was like sitting down for these questions. I know I thought it was going to be a lot easier than it was for me. It took me, I don't know, a bit of time to, I don't know, they're just deep in a way that most conversation doesn't normally go.
I agree, man. No, it was thought-provoking. It really put me in a place of self-analysis, right? And like kind of, which is important to do. We need to be doing that more and more, is looking in the mirror. So I think it's beneficial. I think everybody listening to this should do the questions. I know you guys are. I was listening to a recent one, and that's cool. You're opening it up to anybody like that wants to apply to do it. I think that's awesome. Like I love that kind of decentralized, open format, open source blog podcasting. I think that's really cool. But I think even if you're listening and you don't want to be on the show, like do the questions yourself. Like even I think it's important to write down the answers so you have that like alchemical interaction with the words, or at least record yourself out loud answering them. Because I think you guys have done a fantastic job at zeroing in on a really important set of fundamental factors of what makes men and what makes our life have value. So it's been really rewarding, guys.
Awesome. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thanks for
Nice
those.
words.
Yeah, thank you. Did you? I know we didn't really get to address it a whole lot, but did you want to plug Alfa Vedic or any other projects that you have currently in the works? I'm a huge fan, obviously, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so Alfa Vedic, we have a weekly podcast called Alpha Cast, and something I and Dr. Berlando do. It started out as just kind of a fun little chat, and it's kind of grown into having a decent following. And so we do that every Thursday at 10 a.m. On D Live. We're streaming on YouTube and Facebook too, but our main focus is kind of on D Live, which is this great little live streaming platform. And then we record that as a podcast too. And we've been so lucky. We've had just amazing guests on there, from like John McAfee to Sayer G to Max Egan. And of course, we've had some guests that you guys have had on. I was looking at, you've had, and actually good friends of mine now, like Matt Belair. I count as a dear friend. I recently went on his podcast, and you had Marty Leeds on, who's an awesome dude who's been on our
Absolutely
on our
is.
podcast.
Love that guy.
And Marty's always, dude, he's such a cool dude. Like whenever we're doing our live stream on D Live, he pops in and says what up and gives us some coin. And yeah, dude, that guy's a quality human being. So in Alfa Vedic, we have a co-op that people can join to get not only just like discounts on products and stuff, but also to kind of engage in the community. We've got a level there of executive co-op membership where we actually do Zoom meetings, and the idea is to build new ways of commerce and bartering and support each other so that we can kind of create a whole new system, right, of doing commerce and helping each other out and building out kind of agricultural co-ops. So one of our main backgrounds is in permaculture and regenerative agriculture, biodynamic farming. So we actually have an off-grid farm where we grow a lot of our base product, which is Jiao Gulan, which we use in our what we call our Immortality tea line. And that's been our bread and butter, but we also have a ton of other products that we offer that come from Dr. Lando's private kind of clinic years. He was a pretty well-known bioterrain specialist in the underground that people would go to when they're like on their absolute last, kind of step towards, getting the prognosis of, you have a month to live kind of thing. So he was the guy that was kind of the miracle worker. He'll say he's never healed anyone in his life. He just kind of shows the way, and then those people heal themselves, or they basically clear the way for the body to heal itself. The body's inherently knows how to do that. So anyways, we do that podcast, and we're a company called Alfa Vedic, and we sell product. And we've got a big summit coming out in a month that we partnered up with Josh Del Sol from the 5G Summit. And actually, Josh would be a great guy to have on the show. He's really deep and someone I'd recommend to do this questions with. I know he'd love to do it. So that's going to be an amazing summit we're doing with like Kelly Brogan and Cal Washington and the whole like sovereignty movement. We keep adding people every day to this thing. So that's called Reunion Summit, reunionsummit.com. And then I'm also a co-founder in a project called QORTAL, QORTAL, which is a blockchain, decentralized blockchain project that is 7 years in the making, or 6 years in the making. It's a fully custom built from the ground up blockchain project that is aiming to build the new infrastructure for a decentralized web hosting and decentralized internet. So very big kind of vision there with that project. And that's a fully open source decentralized project. There's no corporation or company behind it. I'm just happen to be one of the quote unquote co-founders. There's I think 12 or 16 of us. I don't even know who they all are. So it's like a true kind of Bitcoin style project. Like there's a lot of anonymous people involved. There has been no corporate money behind it. Everything has been just through donations and people donating their time. It's fully community based, and you can actually join the Discord there to get more information, or just go to QORTAL QORTAL.org. To find more information about that. So yeah, I've been busy this year, guys. I'm looking forward to a little bit of a vacation after the summit. That's for sure.
Sounds
yeah,
like
you guys
it.
have really been, I was just going to say, you guys have really been an inspiration for me just to get healthier. And some of the topics on the podcast that you guys touch on are also, I find a lot of value in. And then also moving away from these mainstream social platforms. I know that you guys are really big on Telegram, so that was kind of the inspiration to start this show's Telegram channel, and then also moving on to a DLive, which is way better than some other platforms out there if you're not into supporting big tech or whatever. Yeah. But I think it's awesome.
Yeah, and we're really just, as Adam and I as we were discussing before, like with the Fediverse concept and decentralized podcasting and everything, we're like at the dawn. We're at the CompuServe days, right? The AOL dial-up days of this. So people need to keep that in mind. And DLive is great, but it's somewhat centralized. They've recently censored people like Owen Benjamin and other people. So, and Discord too is censored Ice Age Farmer and some other channels, friends of ours. So this is why it's important. Like even those platforms, they have problems with centralization, with corporate control, and with centralized servers and all that. So it's really exciting though to see that with the decentralization revolution coming, how empowering that's going to be, and how that's going to allow content creators to really finally, get the middleman out of the way.
Yeah, it's going to be so much more participatory on everybody's part, the supporters to, support the show, and just with the whole crypto aspect coming in and being able to communicate more directly with content creators. Because if it wasn't for the platforms like Discord or whatever, I wouldn't have been able to help out with this project. It just, it closes that degree of separation. I don't know. It's really cool. So I'm looking forward to what the future has.
Definitely. Awesome, guys.
Yeah, Mike, thank you so much for joining us. That was a fun one.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time out to sit down and talk with us. I didn't ask you for a bio, did I?
No, but I'll shoot you one. I'll shoot you one on Discord.
Awesome.
Sweet. Doesn't have to be anything complicated. You know how podcasting goes, just a little descriptor of who you are. Be as simple as I'm a dad with 2 kids. I'm Captain Alfa Vedic, whatever you want.
Cool. Yeah, I got a nice short and sweet one for you guys.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, Mike, have fun on the next show. And like I said, it was fun, man. Thanks.
My pleasure, guys. Great talking. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you. We'll be in touch.
Jag wonder how when I you wonder how when I know what you wonder how when I you wonder how when I know what you wonder how when I you wonder how when I know what you wonder how when I you wonder how when I know what you wonder how when I you wonder how when I know what you wonder how when you wonder how when they know why is one man rich and another man poor? Why we ain't satisfied? Why we gotta have more? Why your suicide rates on the rest so high? Why I tell you the truth but you say don't lie? Why is being a good father at an all-time low? Why is it acceptable? Yo, why I don't know. Why she blame him and he blame her? It's useless. Ask yourself this question. Why you making excuses? Why do parents gotta bury their kids? Why we text and drive, not caring how scary it is? Why it's so hard to forgive and leave the past behind? And if you did, then that's
divine. Why don't you help your brother when you see him fall? Why do we act like God don't see it all? Why do we call them black, them white, them Asians and use labels? Now that's racism.
I don't wanna Hawaii.
Why?
I don't wanna Hawaii. Yo, why? I don't wanna Hawaii.
Why?
I don't wanna Hawaii. Yo, why? I don't wanna Hawaii.
Why?
I don't wanna Hawaii. Yo, why? I don't wanna Hawaii.
Why?
I don't wanna Hawaii. Yo,
Why is there innocent people locked up for life, while some people can't say nothing nice? Why do we always gotta question what all of it means? And why won't you follow your dreams? Tell me why. The night when you took my dad, why'd you let me see my grandpa cry? And tell me why. And why do you choose to hide, even though you was born to fly? And tell me why. And why don't we turn from all the hate? And why don't we learn from all mistakes? Why do I keep on wrecking these fat beats? And teachers don't make more than professional athletes? And why? And why? And why? And why? And why? And why?
I don't wanna Hawaii.
Why?
I don't wanna Hawaii. Yo, why? I don't wanna Hawaii.
Why?
I don't wanna Hawaii. Yo, why? I don't wanna Hawaii. I don't wanna Hawaii. Yo, why? I don't wanna Hawaii. I don't wanna Hawaii. Yo, why?
This should be considered entertainment and not therapy. We hope you benefit from our resources available at 13questionspodcast.com. Thank you for listening.